All right, so welcome everybody to Irish Mindset this week. I'm Aiden Thatcher here with Reagan Sports Corner. We're going to go over about 6 topics here for the Irish season. Obviously, going to start with the quarterback battle. We'll then make our way over to the skills position, who's going to step up at that wide receiver position, or there's going to be just contributions from each guy out there. We'll look to who's going to be the new defense or leader on the defense as Hamilton is now gone. So we'll talk about who's going to step up there and also the cornerback battle. We'll give some predictions for the season. Got 12 games this season, so I'll give you my prediction and some scores for those upcoming games. We got a big opener against Ohio State, so we'll talk about that a little. Go over the offensive line, talk about how brought back a big piece, not only in terms of player, but in coaching. Irish brought back a guy from the Bears who was with the Irish in 2012 to 2017, Harry Hiestand. He comes back, so we'll address that a little bit. And then to finish it off, we'll talk about my 5 X factors for the team this season, who I think is going to have a big season and who I think us Irish fans should keep an eye out for. But we'll start it off here with the quarterback battle. Obviously, it's going to be Buchner versus Pine, but Steve Angeli came in and played really well in that spring game, scored the game-winning touchdown, rushing touchdown. So, he has a lot of ability. I'm excited about him, but I think he's got a little bit more time and needs to develop a little bit more. But to me, I think Buchner has the most potential. I think that's kind of obvious. He has a great ability to run. He's got a lot of lower body strength, so he's a hard guy to tackle. I remember in the Tech game, I was actually at that game. They're having a tough time trying to wrap him up, and he was breaking a lot of tackles. So I really like his ability to run. Passing, that's going to have to just something we're going to have to see throughout the season. Obviously, it helps that he's going to have Michael Mayer. It's always nice when you have a big tight end, big target like that you can target and go to. And, to me, Mayer's a top 10 talent. I think he should be a top 10 pick this year, but the NFL, sometimes they value other positions highly. And the tight end position, I mean, it's not like the left tackle or quarterback or cornerback position or even a pass rusher, but, Mayer is ridiculously talented, can block, can catch, can do just about anything. My uncle calls him Mini Gronk. He's just an absolute tank to try and deal with. So Buchner's going to have to rely on him or Pine, whoever the starter is going to be. But it's going to be interesting to see how Tommy Rees, whoever they choose to be the starting quarterback, interested to see how he kind of adapts his offense around them, whether it's Buchner, whether he wants to do more RPOs with Buchner, maybe a little bit more read options would be nice, especially with, the tackle position kind of solidified with Joe Alt and Blake Fisher. I think it'll be nice having a little bit more, comfortability with those two tackles. But in terms of Pine, he could very, very easily be the starter day one. I think Freeman and Reese also could do a rotation there at quarterback, which, I'm not a big fan of after, we saw kind of Kaiser and Zaire do that. Kind of wreck the rhythm of the offense, especially at the wide receiver position and tight end position. You kind of have to switch your style of play based on the quarterback. So I think that's a big decision Freeman and Reese are going to have to make, is kind of sticking to that starting quarterback. And, Brian Kelly has kind of had an issue with doing that. He has a little bit of commitment issues. So I think they just got to find their guy, stick with them, trust them throughout the season, and really just let the offense kind of groove with them and let them find their rhythm. So then we'll talk about the receiver position. I'll give my prediction. I think Pine's going to start. I think a lot of people are going with Buchner. I don't know. I think Buchner his running ability is incredible, but passing wise, I don't see a lot of consistency with Pine like I do with Pine. And with offense like Notre Dame, obviously the run game is going to be there. We'll talk about that a little later, but I think with a guy like Pine, you can kind of depend on him a little bit more. Doesn't have a super strong arm, but he's pretty accurate and he's consistent. And to me, Buchner needs to work on that consistency a little bit more. So my prediction is going to be Drew Pine. I hope it's not a rotation, but he's going to be my prediction to be the starting quarterback against Ohio State in the opener. So then we'll talk about receiver-wise. That's kind of a big thing that this offense needs. Obviously, it's going to have Chris Tyree. It's going to have Michael Mayer. Offensive line, I think, will be very good, especially with, them getting a key piece like Harry Armstead back. He's kind of going to help mesh that offensive line, give them some good just bring it back to how it was in 2012 and 2017. It kind of has, offensive line is still very good, but back then we had guys like Zach Martin, Quentin Nelson, Alex Barr, Sam Mustover, McGlinchey, Ronnie Stanley. I mean, Notre Dame has some of the best offensive linemen in football right now. So hopefully we can get back to those ways. But speaking of the receiver position, who's going to step up? We haven't really had, a top receiver since Miles Boykin, and he wasn't even – he was good, but, he wasn't like, top 5 receiver in college football. And, we kind of need to get back to the old days where we had guys like Michael Floyd, Golden Tate, guys who could just kind of make one-on-one plays. I feel like we don't really have that. Even Boykin could make those one-on-one plays. So I think someone's got to step up and kind of be a go-to guy for whoever the starting quarterback is, whether it's Lindsey, Styles, Davis. Look for Colsey and Wilkins to compete there to see who's going to be that third receiver there. I expect Lindsey to step up, though. I mean, he had a great game against Oklahoma State in that bowl game. Obviously didn't come out to how he wanted it to, but it was good to see the offense get into a rhythm. Obviously, we'll be without Jack Cohn. I believe it's a big loss, probably our second biggest loss on the team. I really thought he meshed very well at the end of the season, kind of clicked with the offense. And he was just so poised in, late pressure games. Didn't force a lot of balls. Offensive line really didn't give him a lot of help, so he had to get the ball kind of quick. So I think that's going to be a big loss, but we'll see who can step up in the receiver position. I look for Lindsey to have a big year, but I think it's going to be all around kind of almost equal contributions from all parts. Even guys like Chris Tyree who can play in the slot a little bit. Maybe Tommy Rees can design some things in the backfield with him to just get him out in space, because really when Tyree gets in space, he's a tough guy to tackle. So we'll see what he can do there. Obviously, he can, kick return and do punt returns as well. So we'll see who can step up for the Irish in that receiver position. Now we'll talk about the other side of the ball, the defense. Obviously, we lost personally one of my all-time favorite Irish players of all time. I've never seen someone like Kyle Hamilton, someone who can cover about 2/3 of the field. That interception against Florida State was one of the most insane plays I think I've ever seen. And his tackling ability. I mean, he's one of the best. He's basically a linebacker out there. I mean, he doesn't panic. He trusts his length, and he's really strong. I mean, not super jacked, but, he can tackle just about anybody, and he stands his ground. Really smart as well. So we'll see if either Henderson and Joseph, they're going to have a big role there replacing Hamilton. That's no easy shoes to fill, but they're going to have to step in regardless. But Freeman's that's a big blow to this defense. But look for guys like Foskey to kind of come in here. I expect Clarence Lewis kind of to step up in that secondary as well. Played pretty well at the end of the season. So look for him to kind of step up. But I think Foskey has got to be the leader. He's probably going to be a first-round pick. Not probably. He should be a first-round pick. Really elite pass rusher. But he's going to have to kind of set the tone for the Irish defensively. I look for him to have a big season, kind of setting that edge as well. I think that's something that goes overlooked in this game. Obviously, he's a great pass rusher and get after the quarterback, but really stops that, outside run, does a good job of kind of blocking off that edge, preventing guys from getting to the outside, trying to keep them inside, push them back up the middle. So we'll see how he can do this year. Freeman obviously going to have to kind of adapt the defense without Hamilton. So we'll see what he can do. But now we'll talk about the cornerback battle, because that's obviously a big topic on everybody's mind. I think Clarence Lewis is going to be the number one corner. I think Cam Hart will be number 2. He played a good amount last year. I think he'll step in and play very nice. But, guys like Ryan Barnes and Tariq Baisley, they'll have an opportunity to compete this season and try and get some playing time here. But I believe it's going to be Lewis and Cam Hart. Those will be our two starting corners, and I'm confident in them. I think they can, play man. They're pretty good in zone. I like Lewis a little bit more in man, but I think Cam Hart can, improve a little bit this season. Especially, it's going to be tough week one. Ohio State's got, every receiver known to man. Obviously, it's going to be a big test for him against Ohio State. But after that, it kind of calms down. But that first week is going to be a big indicator to see, how far these guys have come along. So we'll see. And speaking of Ohio State, I'll give our prediction here for the season. Obviously, we start off against Ohio State. I hate to say this, but Ohio State's just really good. C.J. Stroud, I think he's going to be the number one quarterback picked in the draft. I like Bryce Young too, but C.J. Stroud just throws a beautiful football, incredibly accurate, and I think he's got a little bit more arm strength than Bryce Young. So I think Stroud's, we're going against the best quarterback in college football. So, Freeman's obviously first opening game. I think it's just going to be a little bit too much. I think we'll lose that game, but then after that, I don't think we're going to lose anymore. I think we're going to go 11-1. I think those games against SC and Clemson are going to be battles, but I just feel like we're better. We have more talent, and I think as long as we stick to our strengths, and I think our offensive line is going to dominate in both those games. And I think the defensive line will put enough pressure and kind of contain the run on both teams, because obviously Clemson has a very good defensive line and offensive line, but USC with Lincoln Riley now, we'll see how they do, but I think we match up better than both those teams. I think, it'll be a hard-fought game, but I expect us to win both those. I think we're going to make the playoff this year too. I think we got the potential. It's just that how's that quarterback position going to finish out here? Because I think, besides that, I think we have the best tight end in the country. I think we're going to have a top 10 offensive line. Defensive line is going to be very good as well. The linebacker core should be pretty solid. And then that back end, obviously Hamilton won't be there anymore, but I think the cornerbacks, Lewis and Hart, will play very well. And I think Henderson and Joseph will be suitable there. So that's my prediction, 11-1. I do think that Ohio State game is going to be very good, though. I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than people think. I think, Notre Dame's going to kind of like that Oklahoma State game where it's going to be a little bit more offense played, a lot of big plays. I think Ohio State's going to have a lot of big plays, but 11-1, that's my prediction. Is now we're going to go over and talk about the offensive line. This is what I'm excited about, talking about this offensive line, because last year, it was kind of that year where it was like, wow, we didn't really have we had a good offensive line, but it wasn't elite like, we've had in years past. Obviously, we talked about Quentin Nelson before, Alex Bars, Sam Mustipher, Mike McGlinchey, Ronnie Stanley. So, and Zach Martin and Nick Martin too. So, we've had guys in the past really excel, not only in Notre Dame, but, at the next level. So we'll see what Harry can do this year, but he kind of is coming off a rough season with the Bears. He was with the Bears previously. To be fair, they didn't really help him out. They didn't really give him a lot of good offensive line there. They did draft Jenkins, that guy from Oklahoma State, but he was injured, so kind of got dealt a bad hand there for Harry, but he's going to be returning here. I'm really excited to see how the tackles play this year with Alt and Fisher. I think that's going to be our strength besides Patterson. I think Patterson's going to kind of has to be that guy, the leader for the offensive line. Kind of like what Quentin Nelson was. Nick Martin was like that. He kind of has to be that guy that steps up and keeps that unit really tight and close, because that's, people underestimate the offensive line chemistry, and, playing five guys, they have to kind of be on the same page. So I think Patterson's got to be that guy that kind of ties them together, especially with Lugg and Andrew Kristofic. I always say his name wrong. The guard position kind of concerns me a little bit, but I think bringing Harry back is going to help those guys out tremendously. I think they're going to step in and really improve the outside run a lot more. Obviously, losing Kyron Williams, that's a big blow. One of my favorite Notre Dame running backs to watch here, like Sierra Wood. I think he was better than Sierra Wood, but I can't think of the other running back. He just played for the Patriots, got cut. I forget, but Notre Dame's has had plenty of good running backs, but Tyree's going to step in there, so we'll see how he can do with this offensive line. But I expect the outside run to be a lot better, and that guard play is just the biggest concern for me. And we'll see how Diggs can do. I think the running back rotation will kind of be mainly Tyree, especially on third down. He should be in almost every third down, but maybe throw Diggs in there on either first or second if Tyree's been there for 3 or 4 plays consecutively. But eager to see how Diggs can do this season, especially with that improved offensive line. So now we'll talk about kind of the guys I expect to have a really big season. And obviously the first one's going to be Michael Mayer. Don't want to say he's going to be in the Heisman conversation because I don't believe a tight end – I'm not sure, honestly, but rarely do you see tight ends in the Heisman conversation. I don't believe a tight end has ever won the Heisman, so but he has plenty of potential. The thing that also people don't realize is his blocking will, people will always not give him credit for blocking, but I mean, he's one of the, if not the best blocking tight ends in football. And it adds a lot more to that, Irish offense and what Tommy Rees can kind of do, whether that be more play action pass with him. Maybe he wants to, leave him in as a blocker and kind of send him out on the distance, but we'll see what he does with Mayer. I'd like to see him kind of use him more in RPOs as well, whether it's Buchner or Pine. But he's just a big target that these guys can depend on. I think whoever the starting quarterback is, Mayer's going to get a lot of targets, as he should. I mean, but expect him to get a lot of attention too, because, you can't really cover him with a linebacker. A little too slow, unless you have like kind of a hybrid linebacker like a Isaiah Simmons or maybe like a Nakobe Dean who's a little bit on the shorter side, but still had great speed and good vertical and horizontal quickness to keep up with them. But even cornerbacks and safeties, I mean, most safeties are a little bit too small. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton is the exception there, but he was from Notre Dame, so we'll see how defenses match up against Mayer. I expect them to get double teamed a lot. And if teams are in zone, they're going to give him a lot of attention. So I think he's going to have a big season. I expect Chris Tyree to kind of break out this season and have I would like to see him get 1,000 yards rushing. I'd also like to see him get 300 to 400 yards receiving. And I expect him to either return one kick return or punt return for a touchdown. I think he's just really dynamic in open space. So shifty, just really hard guy to tackle. And, can play that slot receiver position, which is really valuable in this offense, especially if, Lindsey or Styles or Davis has been struggling. You can put a guy out there like Tyree who can, take the top off of defense or just, just very shifty, hard guy to cover. So I expect him to have a big season. Now we'll talk about, obviously, Foskey. I think he's just going to be a really, really hard guy to stop. He's going to cause a lot of problems. I think in the Ohio State game, he's really going to put his name out there. Ohio State's got a couple of good offensive linemen, so I think he's going to come out and really put scouts and NFL teams on notice. Because I think, to be honest, he's kind of been underlooked. I know he's been given a grade of first round, but to me, he's top 3 pass rusher, if not, the best one in this draft. So this upcoming draft. So we'll see what he can do this season. Like to see him step up as a leader too. defense a little bit on the younger side, not as experienced. So like to see him kind of be that vocal leader and kind of push that defense, especially with Freeman, who, we all know his enthusiasm and love for football. So I'm excited to see Foskey and what he's going to do this season. As now we'll go to the quarterback one. I think that's one that there's kind of like a weird cloud over it because we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. So we'll have to wait and see who that is. But, we really haven't had incredible quarter. I mean, we've had solid, good quarterback play. I thought Cohen played good last year, not great, but good. I love Ian Book. I think he's a really, really good person, smart guy. He's a good quarterback, but, the arm strength was a little lacking there. Even guys like Everett Golson, he's a good quarterback. He's not great. We really haven't had a quarterback drafted, that has been really successful. I remember I got my Jimmy Clausen jersey back there. I thought he was going to be that guy. Got picked by the Panthers and really never turned out. So whoever the quarterback is, we're going to need some high-level play if we want to, compete for a championship and beat teams like Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. So we'll see who the quarterback is, but to me, that's the biggest one because we all know what Mayer's going to do as long as he stays healthy. Same with Tyree and Foskey. Those guys are going to be fun. It's just who's going to be that leader that kind of takes that offense to the next level. Could it be Buchner? I mean, Buchner has the most potential. He has more potential than Book. Reminded me of kind of Gunnar Kiel. Gunnar Kiel was more throwing the ball. He was a pretty good pocket passer. Didn't have great legs, but I think if Buchner can develop a little bit more accuracy, I think he could be a really, really big problem for defenses. But we'll have to see. Luckily, the offensive line is going to give him a little bit more time because Cohen was getting kind of demolished back there in some games. I know that Oklahoma State game, he was having to get the ball out really quick. So we'll see what whoever the starting quarterback is going to be. And I think the last X factor is just those 5 offensive linemen. I'm not going to single one guy out because, one guy doesn't ruin a whole offensive line. That chemistry and that rhythm that they develop, that is going to be important. I think Harry Hiestand is going to come in and kind of bring it back to our old roots and really just help kind of tie the knot here with these 5 guys. Obviously, we talked about Fisher and Alt. I think they're going to be 2 really good tackles in college football this year. Lugg, he concerns me a little bit. I really like him. He's a graduate student, but didn't show. He was a good guard last year. Wasn't anything exceptional, but I'm expecting big things out of this year. And Kristofic, I would like to see him kind of step up. His junior season this season, so I'd like to see him step up a little bit. But obviously, Patterson is going to have to be kind of like the Foskey of the offense, I think, if it's not Mayer. But Patterson, obviously another graduate student, he has to be that guy that leads this offensive line and kind of is the vocal guy in the locker room, in the film room, and in the games. Because against Ohio State, it's going to be. I mean, they've got some big guys on that defense line. Teron Vincent, I went to school with him. He's no easy guy to deal with. So they're going to have their hands full week 1 against Ohio State. 11-1 is my prediction. This is going to conclude this episode here of Irish Mindset. We'll be back next Thursday. We'll be addressing some more issues and talking about maybe some individual games a little bit more. We'll go into depth about I think that UNC game, that's going to be a great game. Obviously, Stanford has kind of struggled the last couple seasons. We'll play Navy. Seems like we always have issues figuring out that option for some reason, even though they keep the same offense. They've had the same offense for it seems like 100 years now, but we've always had difficulty against them. But I expect us to win that game. And I'll go over the Clemson, Boston College, and USC game as well. I'm really excited for that USC game. Obviously, the Clemson game is exciting too, but with Lincoln Riley there, we've kind of owned USC in the past a little bit now. So excited to see him there, what their offense is going to look like, and hopefully we come out and beat the brakes off of them. But we'll see. But this is going to conclude this week's episode of Irish Mindset. As always, go Irish, and I will see you all next week.